Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk about some of my kind of electronic tools or radio tools that I kind of keep on hand. I consider these kind of essential, tools for being prepared, essentially, kind of, for the worst case scenario, or if, shit hits the fan kind of thing. So I'll preface that this is not a review of these devices. I'm by no means a radio and hobbyist or expert. I just have these, like I said, I consider them an essential part to be prepared. And, I kind of like to use them here and there as well. But I'm not going to dive too much into detail, kind of what they do, but more so kind of why I have it and why I think it's important to have these if you're kind of building a preparation kit. So I'll start with kind of something very simple, and that's just a basic, radio. I'm sure many already have these. I got several of these, and I chose this one because I've nice and small, fits on my table. But I actually like this one a lot. This is one I'll kind of grab and go with me. It's super tiny. It's the size of, like, if you look at a Leatherman here, it's about the same thickness and it's shorter, obviously a lot lighter, but easy radio just to grab and go with you. You get FM, AM, and you get weather stations as well, which is kind of cool. So these are good to, again, have in the event of emergency. You can at least hear the weather reports or kind of get some broadcast if there is some kind of a power outage that would render your Wi-Fi or phone useless. You can at least still rely on radio to get information. So that's why I have several of these actually. Next would be kind of a souped up radio. So this is a radio. It does AM, FM, weather, like this smaller one, but this one goes a step further in that you can also monitor shortwave radio as well. And where this becomes helpful is obviously to, again, information. So if there's a time or an event that would render cell phones useless, radios are kind of the proven, reliable way of transferring information. This lets you monitor a lot of, like, the amateur bands, ham radio bands, to kind of, again, stay update information. You can also receive a lot more radio stations as well, which is kind of cool. So besides AM and FM, shortwave, you can pull radio stations from all over the country, all over the world, depends where you live. So another kind of cool way just to hear additional programming, particularly in news. If you're someone that's really into following news, you can get, kind of what I call unfiltered news, because anything on AM and FM is, subject to FCC kind of, rules, guidelines, etc. So you can kind of pull in, stations outside those bounds. So I think useful to have one of these on hand. These are affordable. This is kind of more on the higher end, but you can get these as cheap as maybe like $50-$60 for shortwave radio. But I'd recommend kind of going up a little higher, because then you can get some of the other bells and whistles, like sideband monitoring. That's where you can pick up ham radios, CB radios, etc. So SSB is a nice little perk. Air monitoring is kind of cool too. Not that there was a good purpose to it, other than it's kind of interesting to listen to. You can kind of hear all the planes traveling over your head. This works actually really well. I'll see if I can clip a video in there. this actually pulls in air, I thought, a little better than even my dedicated scanner. But so that's the story on this one. Again, good way to access information. Next, we have a scanner, so often referred to as kind of a police scanner, but it's really a radio scanner. This can really scan all the bands. Really useful just to kind of understand, again, what's going on around you. You can pull in all sorts of emergency bands, trunk, digital, simulcast. This thing will pull them all, so you can actually, good way to receive, kind of understand what, if there's any police activity, what's going on. Even military bands can pick up on it. Obviously weather, all the amateur ham bands. Yeah, I mean, this can really just pick up everything. So a good way, again, to hear what's being transmitted, stay up to date on any information that might be going on around you. And it's also kind of fun to listen to. I'll sometimes put this on and just kind of listen to what's going on with my local police, etc. Like I said, you pull it all. I mean, yeah, this is a pricier one. This is probably kind of, more on the higher end of scanners. This one I think retails for $650. So it is kind of the pricier of the options, but it just works phenomenally well. So, but even you can go down, down in price if you don't care about kind of the police traffic, because that's kind of what makes this one a little higher tier, is to be able to monitor kind of the digital, the trunking, and the simulcast transmission. So if you're just looking for just basic frequency monitoring, you can get one for $100, $150. But this one is kind of the one that will kind of really get it all. So that's kind of why I have this, again, just to kind of maintain information and hear what's going on around you. And then my final one is this little guy. So this is essentially like a ham radio, a tiny one. It's only a 5 watt, but this can, let me turn this one off because we're gonna keep talking here. Okay, so this one essentially is kind of a much more trimmed down version of the scanner. So this can listen to, not as much a variety as bands. I think you only have like 140. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly so I don't misspeak and have the audience go after me for giving wrong information here. But let me double check. I know it's very short on what this can monitor here. So this can go 144 to 148 and 420 to 450. So the same thing, you can monitor it with it if you want, which is kind of what I got is to monitor. So for example, you can pull in weather with this one too, and then obviously you can program other channels as well that you can monitor as well. So surprisingly, if you go on radio frequency or any database, there's a lot of frequencies that this can actually listen to. So I can listen to like my local kids' school on here. My public works in my town is in this band. So you can actually pull in some information with this little guy as well. But the big difference with this one is that you can transmit. So that's kind of why I have these. Again, if stuff gets really hairy and cell phones are down, it can't work, this could be your only way to communicate to the outside. So that's kind of why I got these. Actually got, you see a couple of them to keep in the cars and kind of have on hand. You can actually program to talk to each other like walkie-talkies, or you can also broadcast kind of out as well. So it could be, a lifesaver in a certain situations. Now you have to be licensed to actually broadcast with it. But again, I'm not a enthusiast. I'm not going to be broadcasting unless it's like an emergency. And if it's an emergency, you technically are able to broadcast without a license, without, I think, incurring any kind of trouble. But regardless if it's a life or death situation or emergency, I don't care about getting in trouble at that point. But that's kind of where these are essential for me, is that be able to broadcast out. Now, the downside to these is that their range is very limited. Maybe from a top of a mountain with a clear line of sight, you could, go maybe, 8 miles plus or minus or so, 8, 9, 10 miles perhaps with a clean line of sight. But realistically, in like a urban setting or suburbs, you know, maybe a couple miles is probably what you'd get out of this thing. So if you want more range, you got to go kind of with a more powerful one. But I mean, these are like 20 bucks each. So for 20 bucks for something you can kind of just throw in the back of the car or whatever, you know, I think it's a useful item to have, and it's a good way to kind of learn radios. Part of the reason why I got these as well is that it allows me to kind of learn the fundamentals of a radio, just to kind of know frequencies and how it works, which ones do what. So it's just a good exercise to go through as well to kind of get some basic foundations in radios. But yeah, so that's kind of really my toolbox when it comes to radios. I mean, really, it's really mainly like kind of these three. This I just threw in there because I'm hoping everyone has one of these on hand at some point. But these would be ones that kind of consider adding if you don't already have them, and kind of what purposes they could serve for you. I would say if you can only have one of these, I'd probably say this one, just because it's the most useful in terms of pulling in information from everywhere. So if you're kind of if you want to be informed, understand what's going on, any disasters, emergencies, etc., you know, this will kind of give you everything you need to know. But obviously, it's most expensive of the group. This one being only 20 bucks. I mean, I think it's good for just to have it. You know, you just never know for how cheap it is. So, and you can, like I said, you can still monitor with it. Like example, you know, you can monitor weather, public works. You know, look in your area, see what's in this band, and you can treat it like a scanner and just listen to. You can program it, and you can have it just scan all the channels, or you can just have it scan indefinitely. But I think it's easier just to put the channels in and then have it scan. So, but yeah, so that's it for my radio toolbox. If you have any questions, let me know. If I got anything wrong, let me know. Like I said, I'm not by any means an expert. I just kind of have these, you know, just to kind of to be prepared. Really is kind of the only reason I have them. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.